Hi there, I am Dara Innerlight, and my creator have been making Kigurumi masks for the last 16 years, and today we shall share with you some of our knowledge we gained so far. And we shall talk about what kind of different Kigurumi mask shells are available today, what the advantages and disadvantages for those shells for both the users and the makers. So let's get started. And today we can have different shells: the 1/2 shell or 1/3 shell, the 1/2 with the soft backside, the 2/3 or 3/4 shells, the full head shells. Also, I will cover the new emerging thing that is silicone Kigurumi mask shells, and as a special gimmick, the split face masks, basically a gimmick for them that can be applied for the other types of masks. So let's get started. Well, and the first is the 1/2 Kigurumi masks. Well, I have a Google Lab mask here with me. This is 1/2, and this is the Mollis mask on the photo, then 1/3 mask. And as you can see, it's basically the modern take on classic Venetia and Volta masks, with the eyes, with extra with ears on them. These masks are usually used for BCD style because it's small masks. It's relatively small face mask, and thus it is well, it would look weird if this mask would be an anime style or fursuit mask. It would simply look weird on the human head because of the proportions. For the anime character, you need to have a larger head to body ratio than for the regular heads, but for the doll style, you do not need them. You can use them just a standard head to body ratio of the human. So this is some design limitation, and because of the size, because of the large opening, we have it is lighter, it is more lightweight, it's easy to transport, it can fit carry on in airport when you carry on luggage with you when you are traveling by the plane. So it's pretty small. And also we have this big large opening, and this big large opening is very useful in a production phase because you have a lot of access for the interior to install all the stuff, to arrange all the stuff in it, and make it also to prepare it as a maker and to adjust it as an end user for yourself. Also, since these masks are small and the backside of your head is basically the backside of your actual head, these masks can be used with a regular sized wigs, the regular human sized wigs. So again, it's a bit cheaper in this regard because less hair. It's lighter because again less hair. Well, and because you have this large opening again, this is a lot of ventilation from the start. You do not need to specially manage the ventilation in this mask, unlike in other types. But you do not have the ability to enclose yourself in this mask easily. You will have to invent some extra straps. For example, in ancient Twisted Metal game series, there was a character Dollface who had this mask on her face that was locked with 5 straps at the back of her head, something like that. So in this case it's a bit tricky to perform this kind of stuff. But if you do not need it, then you do not need it. And again, because there is no back side of the mask, well, you are restricted for haircuts with relatively with the hair that is at least this long, and you cannot do the ponytails, you cannot make them top hair on the top. You will need to cover that gap somehow with the hair. The next type that do not have this problem with hair is the masks that we add some the soft backside. It can be made of foam that come with fabric on top, inside and outside. It can be made of either foam or out of soft plastics. Usually there is a zipper in the middle. For example, on the mask of Goethan, this from the Twitter user Goethan, who is owner of these masks. And this idea was introduced by Japanese makers, well, a lot of time ago. And they basically made this soft backside and attached the wig to it. Basically, they attached the wig to the animegao face through this and make some soft support for that wig. And so it started. And because you have this support for the wig, we are no longer restricted to just BGD style. We can use animegao style because we can make a larger masks and support the hair with this soft padding. I do not have the example here with me, but we upgraded the 1/2 mask some times ago for Lin to this kind of stuff, and we didn't attach the wig directly to the mask. Instead, we just placed several points of connections for the wig and attached the wig over this with this soft surface. Because it's a soft surface, we have this soft pillow at the back of the hand, of our head. It is way more cozy inside, it's more soft inside, very nice, but ventilation becomes worse, and you need to manage ventilation somehow in this kind of masks. This is this trade. But again, because we have this backside, we can make it out of non-stretch material and we can make it lockable. Also, as I mentioned, the backside can be larger and we can use the animegao style heads, and in this case we will need some more hair, so the regular wigs can be a bit silly looking on this mask. You will have to use a larger Kigurumi sized wig. Then weight-wise and transport-wise, it's still lightweight because we have just a solid shell, and the rest is way lighter. And again, the rest is pretty soft, so we can squish it for transportation. And it makes it more convenient. Also, when you make this mask, you attach the back side on the later stages of mask making, so it is not an issue to access the face part from the inside to place everything inside and adjust everything inside. But if you are an owner of this mask, and especially if hair are permanently attached to this back side, it can be a liability because it makes it harder to access the interior of the mask to adjust paddings on the face, and it also makes it more difficult to clean the mask if it is needed. Because when you can detach hair, detach paddings, etc., and clean that separately, it's way more convenient than when you have to clean the mask as a whole, because, well, not everyone covers their masks with durable automotive clear coats like me, so the mask can be vulnerable for different cleaning methods. So, well, you know, it's a bit of a tricky situation. Now let's move on to the 2/3 and 3/4 shells. It was a pretty popular method back then, and in this case we have a medium or large sized mask with a pretty large opening. I have an example of one of my older masks. So you can see we have a pretty large opening in the back, and you also have a lot of hair on top, a lot of support for hair on top, and in this case we can use hair attached to the mask, or we can use the Kigurumi sized wig. For example, here this one of all the view shells. This is, I believe, is Reinactor's gear shell, and all the Japan manufacturer. And speaking of hair again, we have, well, speaking of paddings, we have a pretty large access to the interior, but it's a bit more restricted. It's a bit deeper than the 1/2 shell, so it's a bit more difficult to access all the points inside, but it's still accessible. And this large opening provides a lot of ventilation. But the large opening requires you to restrict you with a certain hair type, haircuts. You cannot have the ponytail because, well, you see here I can just have a ponytail, and, well, but in this case there would be a lot of visible stuff, so you have your hair to be at least this long and lower. Then, so what's next? What haven't we covered here is the production method. Well, production methods can be any type of production methods. The production methods. So it's nothing to especially talk about here. There will be a separate video. So basically, a 3D printed, resin cast, fiberglass, compounds, well, papier-mâché, well, anything. Again, for the 1/2 mask, it's also true. It's also true for full heads. So nothing more here. But again, it's more weight. It's larger surface, and we cannot make the small size mask because we need a lot the area inside for all that paddings, because it's basically the hard shell to have our hair, to have the mask hair rest on top of this stuff. Also, you cannot make it lockable directly, but it's possible to convert these kinds of masks into the full head masks. You just need to add the back plate. So here is again my example. So we have this, and we have the back plate, and convert it to the full head mask. And now so it can become the full head, and now we can have any haircut we want. Well, but on the cost of ventilation and on the cost of extra weight. So let's move to full heads. But the last thing before we move to full heads is that the 2/3 and especially 3/4 are pretty tricky to put on. You cannot just put it on, you need to rotate it face up, then put it on, squish down the paddings, and then rotate it back to its designated position, and the mask will stay off, it won't fall off, and sometimes there is a special tape or belt or something like that that just keeps the mask in case of it will want to slip off your head. Now again, let's move to the full heads. The full heads are always made of two parts, simply because the difference between 3/4 and the full head is that you do not have this large opening to accommodate all of your head when you put it on and off. Instead, there is a pretty small opening around your neck, and again, this opening restricts some ventilation. You need to think about ventilation. Unlike the 2/3, for example, or 3/4, but this design allows you to add some extra features. For example, you can use the solid hair or rubber hair, and this would may be a separate part, or it may be basically the back side of the mask as a solid hair. And directly it's just a part of the mask itself. And also it's a larger mask, so Kigurumi sized wigs, touch hair, rubber hair, resin hair, and compound hair, silicone hair. So then one interesting difference between the 3/4 and this is that it can be easier to access the interior of the mask because you are not restricted to make this the seam just here like on the 2/3. You can make the seam anywhere. For example, here we have the face plate separately and the back plate separately. So it allows you to pretty easy access to the interior of the mask. Also, this unlocks another interesting feature. If you have the seam at the base of the hair, so you have the face and the back side, this allows you to have to maintain the haircut. So you won't need to push your hair away when you put the mask on. Well, maybe the front hair a bit, but you can make the pretty sophisticated haircut and then put the mask on without disturbing the haircut. You also is able to have a separate face plates for this mask, but as a maker, when you are a maker, you will have to very carefully connect the back and front pieces. You have to measure them together at the place of the seam, so it will look less visible, less noticeable, and more clean. Also, it's an extra weight, it's more difficult to transport. And again, ventilation. Then other feature I would like to talk about this mask is the locking mechanism, because you can have hidden locks in this mask, in these types of masks. Well, and it is pretty cozy inside. Well, you have not a one pillow like the soft backside, but a set of pillows inside the mask. So it's cozy, it's safe, and if you want, you can add just use dedicated type of locks, so unauthorized people won't be able to take the mask off you. And thus, let's move to the next type. The next type we're going to cover is Kigurumi masks made of silicone. Well, I know that for a long time we already have the female silicone masks, realistic silicone masks, rubber doll silicone masks. But today I'm going to talk specifically about silicone Kigurumi masks. And I've encountered so far only two variants, two examples. One example was the tooth silicone masks, the tooth fairy from the Guardians. Try to find her on Instagram. She is still operational. It's a heavily animatronic mask made of silicone with some sophisticated engineering. Made well, about 12, maybe 15 years ago already, and it's still operational. A very great example. And the other example was the experiment from Mania Unis 2 years ago. They made a silicone Kigurumi mask in a same way that the current female masks are made as an experiment. So you see it here. Well, there are some. Well, why do not we see this stuff more often? Well, you can also recall that Moody masks are a silicone soft material, not silicone, the soft polyurethane over the plastic shell, but it's a bit different. It's more the one-half category, just with a special coating, mostly like in this category, falls in this category. And the main difference between this and the other stuff, maybe from the point of view of how to install ice in these masks. But here is the pure example. And what can we tell about this? First of all, it is pretty difficult to manufacture. Well, today we have RLP technology that allows you to print silicone items in some kind of gel, but this technology is still patented, so we may not see it to be deployed widely to wide audiences, to wide consumers. Soon, maybe in 5 or 10 years, we will see this. And the other way to produce this mask is to make a pretty sophisticated mold, because you cannot sand the mask surface after it is cast. You need to what you get after the cast is what you get is the final product. You cannot adjust it in the process, unlike the masks made of fiberglass or masks that are 3D printed with fused deposition or with DLP methods. This is basically what you just put into the mold. How the mold surface dictates you the surface of the final product. So you have to put a lot of effort in making these molds, or you will have to wait until the RLP technology would be available to wide makers, wide audience of the makers. Well, now what can I talk about the usability of this mask? Well, these masks can be full head, where even with the neck, because it's silicone, it can be open, stretched and pulled over. But you will have some extra measures to keep its shape, because, well, in regular silicone female masks, the masks are usually rest on top of the wearer's head. It's usually pretty thin, or will have some thin pillow somewhere on the head to a bit enlarge the head, but nothing extreme. But in case of Kigurumi masks, especially in case of anime girl masks, the gap between the mask outer surface and the head surface can be 5 centimeters easily, maybe 7 centimeters. It is easy. On the top or on the sides, there are some space you need to accommodate. So you will have to engineer the mask accordingly. The next thing is that the access to the interior of the mask also would be pretty restricted. But as this stuff, when the RLP technology will be deployed, this stuff will have some advantage that you can just design everything and just print the respirator inside the mask, the paddings inside the mask, everything just in place, and then you will just have to add some blush and some, well, eyebrows, something like that. The view outside of the mask, well, here is the most standard thing, well, just two small points of view. Maybe there can be added some ports for eyes like in Muni masks, again for the view, and because it's a silicone, this mask could be airtight, basically the gas masks of Kigurumi design. So, well, again, we will have to, the breathing, the ventilation will have to be managed accordingly. These masks won't be able to be lockable from the start. You will have to add some accessories, for example, like a collar or like some extra, or like embed some strips of non-stretch material inside, something like that, or even made a back zipper to this mask. And if we will talk about hair, there would be there would be two main options. One option would be the Kigurumi sized wig, and the other option would be the silicone hair that also would be molded or printed and put on the mask, maybe glued on the mask, or maybe just put on and something like that. But again, this is just a speculation. Maybe with the advances, maybe the ForJoy will make something like that in the future. Or maybe right now when you are watching it, the time has come, and we also see these kind of masks, well, regularly on conventions, etc. Well, and this is the section about the split face mask. It's not a type of the Kigurumi mask shell, it's more a gimmick that you can deploy on top of the mask. Usually we see this as a demon masks or monster masks for the one-half masks. Well, it's also some robot masks. For example, Anami 626. Well, they have some robot characters. This is, as far as I remember, this is a full head masks with this split face. So you can make it to any solid masks, and well, maybe for silicone masks there will be some kind of this gimmick made as well. Well, because it's just a question of engineering, and of course it adds weight, it adds some more work to perform over the mask, regardless of what type of mask shell it is. But it's a fun, interesting gimmick. So I just want to mention it, but it will not come to the end comparison. And now here is some comparison of different types. So you can see 1/2 without backside, 2/3 full head silicone. So ease of make, how easily it is to make, to assemble, and you can translate it about how cheap it is to produce compared to the mask produced with the same method, but the other type of shell. Again, currently we can use 3D printing, we can use casting into a silicone mold, and do all this kind of stuff. Well, the weight of the mask, So silicone Kigurumi mask, I estimate it will weight almost as a full head mask because the density of silicone is the same and you will have all that stuff going on inside. So it is probably will weight like a full head mask, but there is an interesting thing that you almost do not feel the weight of the mask when you wear it. You will feel this weight when you carry this mask in a bag or in a box, but when it's on top of you, you just forget about it. So it's not a big problem. Well, then the ventilation, this ventilation is ventilation when not managed. So if you think that so the full head masks do not necessarily have a poor ventilation. They will have a poor ventilation if you will not think about ventilation when you create this mask and when you use this mask. But so basically this means that you have to think about ventilation when designing the mask and when making the mask. So for example, the silicone masks can be airtight, so well you need to account for this stuff, etc. And then 1/2 masks have pretty good ventilation. You do not need to care about ventilation in 1/2 masks. The coziness is how cozy, how soft, how great it is being inside this mask. The feeling of enclosure, the feeling of comfort, the feeling of protection. It's about this. So 1/2 mask is just mask, put on, put off, easy. Full head mask is you put it on, close it, and you do not want to get out because it's soft, it's nice. It's you basically at home like a snail every time you're going anytime. Lockability. Well, sorry for the typo. Well, lockability, can you easily add some locks on to the mask and make it lockable or not? Or even do you need these locks? For example, full head needs some kind of locks, maybe locks with the key, maybe locks without the key, so well, maybe just a clasp, but this kind of stuff. Then wigs to be used with the mask. So the types of wigs you can use. The normal wigs are pretty straightforward. The large wigs are basically either the wigs that are sewn out of 2 wigs, or there are some wigs that are already the Kigurumi sized on the market. So here you can see different kinds of wigs, and the wig length is basically about first of all is the wig will look proportional or it will look small on the side, and whether or not you able to do any haircut with this mask, or you will have to cover this backside opening on the head with the hair. So do you have this restriction about types of wig size and haircuts? And transportability size is can you basically how small the mask is when you need to transport it. So this is it. So thank you for watching, thank you for listening to this lecture, and I hope that when you will go to make your own mask, or when you would try to micromanage the maker, this information about mask size and how they can be used and what advantages and disadvantages they have will be useful. So thank you very much. Bye bye.